Hey. Okay, so in 2 days it's gonna be my 3 months on T, and yeah, honestly, there's nothing's really happened since my 2 months. I can't really tell, like, if my voice is different. Sometimes I hear a change, sometimes I don't. I don't know, it's weird. I called my endocrinologist, I called my doctor to find out if I could change my prescription to injections, and basically he's super booked and he's like, you just have to wait till our next appointment, which is in August, like the end of August, so I have 2 more months to wait. And if like my voice hasn't dropped by then, like I honestly don't think it will significantly, at least by then. I think I'm going to switch to injections because like my voice is like my biggest source of dysphoria. I feel like at 3 months there should be at least some kind of noticeable outward change, and for a while I was like happy with things slowly changing and me not noticing it, but now it just feels like not really changing. I don't know, maybe it's just my body doesn't absorb testosterone like transdermally that well. I don't know, maybe that's it. Because I know, hormones affect people's bodies differently and everything. In about 2 months from now, I'm gonna switch to injections and see how that works. Honestly, like the only thing I had an issue with was kind of traveling, because I go to the States a lot, and usually I'm taking the bus to go across, so I have to go into customs and they always scan my like suitcase and stuff through the x-ray machine, and I was worried about having to explain having needles and stuff in my suitcase. But I went to my trans group, and so they were saying, oh, you just need to get a letter from your doctor and hopefully that works. But like the people on the American side of the border, and sometimes the Canadian side too, like can be really difficult. Not looking forward to potentially having to like out myself when I cross, and usually I just go be misgendered, whatever. I don't know. Like it's always a little stressful going through customs. Like when you're in a car and they're talking to you, usually they just ask you a couple questions and ask if you have anything to declare, if you bring any weapons, alcohol, tobacco, food, whatever. And, then they just let you through. But when you take the bus across, usually you have to go into like immigration and talk one-on-one, and sometimes like they can be really difficult about that. So that's gonna be a thing, and I guess I'll deal with that when I get to it. I think another thing about the testosterone is just because I'm not really showing a lot of physical changes, I feel like it's easier for my family to be in denial about my transition. So like that's another reason why I would prefer to be on injections and have some sort of noticeable change, because like it gets irritating when I bring it up and certain instances. Like a few weeks ago, like my mom was taking out the trash, and not my mom's husband was taking out the trash, and he spoke to her about seeing like the wrappers or whatever for my androgel in the garbage, and he is actually taking androgel because he has low testosterone anyway. And he mentioned it to my mom, and then my mom spoke to me later that day and was like, you have to wrap up your androgel stuff. I don't want to see it in the garbage. I don't want anyone to see it in the garbage. I don't want anybody to know you're doing this. And it's like, A, nobody goes through our bathroom garbage, really. And B, I'm not wrapping it up because, like, people are going to know eventually that I'm transitioning. Like, there's gonna be physical changes, and the fact that it isn't happening is, I think, it's been 3 months, and there really hasn't really been anything that anyone who knows that I'm transitioning has seen. So it's like, so I think they sort of think that I'm on hormones, but hormones don't actually change anything, or they thought it did, but the fact that I still look the same, they can sort of say, oh well, you're on hormones, but you look exactly the same, so it doesn't really matter, and I don't have to treat you any differently. Despite me actually saying, yes, you need to start treating me differently, as far as like you need to start using my name and my actual pronouns. And it's like, oh, this is like a phase, and like you should focus on school. You should, like, my dad is trying to be supportive, and like I really appreciate that, but every now and then he'll be like, okay, but school is the most important thing, work on finishing school, and then when you're done with that and after you've started your career, then you can do this, you know, trans thing. And my mom is really against it, so she's like, do school, and then, you know, after you graduate, then do, you know, your trans thing after. And it's like, like they think it's a hobby or something that I'm just, I don't know. Not even a hobby, just, I think they think it's just like dressing differently, and is if I just go back to dressing how I used to dress and try not to stand out or something, I won't be trans anymore. I don't know what they're thinking. Like, I think my dad is getting a little better with it, because I showed him some like YouTube videos of trans guys, black trans guys. He felt a little better knowing that they were people too. I don't know. Like, one of the guys was expressing how he's been on hormones for, I don't know, maybe a year or so, and he was expressing how he still sometimes has doubts about it, but, you know, he knows that it's something he has to do. And then my dad's like, you know, this really resonated with me. I'm like, what about it? And he's like, the fact that he has doubts and the fact that he's not certain, you know, because you can't be certain doing something like this. And I'm like, that wasn't the point of the video that I showed you. Wasn't specifically about the topic of what he was talking about, because the guy was talking to other trans guys about it's okay, despite, you know, those little nagging feelings of like, should I, like, is this right? Like, do I really need to do this? And my dad was like focusing on people doubting it and saying, you know, this is how you're supposed to feel. And it kind of reminded me of, I'm not going to get into the Caitlyn Jenner stuff, but when she had her interview, and I watched it, and I think her son Brody, I don't know, I don't pay attention to that family really, was saying how he accepted her and stuff, and then Diane Sawyer, maybe the interviewer lady, she was like, but how can you be so positive? Like, you can't be that happy about it. You can't, like it's impossible to be happy for trans people and to be like totally accepting of trans people. Like, that's the thing that irked me a lot about that interview. I mean, there might have been other things, but I mean, that I remember that relates to what I'm saying right now. Anyway, like, my 3 months is in 2 days. It's Monday right now. What day is it? The 22nd, and the 25th is my 3 months. I think the fact that I've been following other people who started testosterone at the same time as me, but who are on injections, I don't know, I think it might be messing with my head and making me feel like maybe I'm further behind. But either way, I have 2 more months until I see my endocrinologist, and in 2 months we'll see. Maybe I'll, you know, maybe it takes a while to build up in my system. I don't know. But we'll see in about 2 months, and I'll be making another update video in between then. So, bye!